Games today have gone way past the run, jump, and shoot basics of the early titles. Instead of blowing up aliens and aiming for high scores, gamers are looking for a more realistic, immersive, and open-ended experience. And the gaming audience is changing too. Boys, girls, men, women, they're all getting into games big time. Whether it's attempting to execute a 900 on a skateboard from the safety of your couch, or deciding how much to tax the residents of your very own virtual city. Back in the late 80s, Will Wright, a young programmer and hardcore gamer, was fascinated by how cities and societies work. Urban planning might not sound like the next hot thing in entertainment, but Will thought it was a great idea for a game.
Well, SimCity was basically a game where you're designing a city. It's almost like a paint program in a way. You have a palette of parts, but the parts in this case are things like roads or industrial zones or schools. And as you paint, things happen. You know, people start building houses, traffic appears on the roads, there's pollution, there's crime. So we released it in '89. It was a very different sort of game at the time. You know, at that time, still most games were very action-oriented, very clear goals. And at first, we were having a hard time getting anybody to even play it.
Until a rave review in Newsweek put SimCity on the map and sent sales of the game through the roof. And a new gaming franchise was born. But the big payday came when Will applied his simulation concepts to the human form. When The Sims debuted in February of 2000, players could now build simulations of actual people and run their lives.
It's effectively a dollhouse where you get to lead a virtual life, and it's really fun to play. I think it's one of the most innovative games ever made.
The Sims is one of the games that my daughter will play. It's one of the games that my wife will play. Sims is one that they're immediately drawn to.
Will Wright wasn't the only one giving gamers the power to build their own worlds. 5,000 miles east of Silicon Valley, in England to be exact, British designer Peter Molyneux also had a new take on gameplay.
Instead of playing a hero, or instead of playing a character or a plumber or a hedgehog, why don't you play God? That's the most powerful thing that you could possibly be.
Molyneux's game, Populous, sold over 4 million copies and gave birth to a new genre, the God game.
And rather than actually controlling a single character, with your godly powers, you influence lots of little characters.
Just as when you were little kids and you were setting up your G.I. Joes in the sandbox or whatever, you're doing the same thing now, but with digital toys.
If some gamers got juiced being God, others wanted to get their kicks by playing with a bunch of friends inside the virtual world of a game. When the internet exploded in the 90s, technology was able to deliver their fantasy. One of the first games to really hook into the concept was Carmack and Romero's 1996 follow-up to Doom, Quake.
Quake enabled 16 people to play over the internet, and that really just blew it open. There started to be teams of gamers, and they called themselves clans.
All right, go now.
I just wake up in the morning and can't wait to go hop on the game and see who's there, or say hi, or hop in and go kill people.
Not exactly the usual way to win friends and influence people. Within months of Quake's release, some of the clans decided to have a get-together so they could meet face-to-face.
QuakeCon is really a grassroots event. It was about 50 guys that wanted to get together because they met online and thought, well, we'll just do it in Texas. And it just grew.
This has become a yearly vacation. It's my time to just have fun, stay up late, sleep late, meet people I play against online.
We're in a senior gaming league, and we have our own competition. Anyone over the age of 35 can play. I just have fun.
We came out here to meet our fellow teammates that we play on. It's NADS, North American Destroyers. And our NADS set up a group for the younger children. We call them NITs, NADS in Training.
7 years on from their first fan fest, QuakeCon attracts over 5,000 players every summer. Texas in August, they've gotta love Quake. It seemed people couldn't get enough of playing in big groups, so game designers started coming up with games that thousands of computer gamers could play, online.
When you go from 16 or 8 or 32 people to thousands, it's massively multiplayer. A massively multiplayer game is where you are running the game on your PC and thousands of other people are connecting to the server, and that connection is allowing you to interact with the game and communicate with others.
Hot titles included Ultima Online, Lineage, and EverQuest, the brainchild of John Smedley. In 1999, he persuaded Sony to create a whole new customer service online so that 30,000 people could play at once.
We make a world for people to play in. On EverQuest, we have a 60-person team that does nothing but make this world unique every day. So when they come into work, they're changing creatures, they're adding new quests, they're looking at what the players have done and saying, okay, that's a little too easy for them, let's tweak that, or maybe that's too hard.
There are dragons and orcs and fairies and giants and all sorts of creatures. And it's supposed to be a virtual world to the extent that whether you're logged on or not, the world keeps going.
So much for the stereotype of a nerdy gamer playing on his own. Now gamers, including women, were joining forces to take on the challenges of EverQuest.
Women are really into forming relationships, and so women do go to these worlds. You often find that they become community leaders. They become the center of a social group.
Soon, millions of computer gamers around the world were logging on to massively multiplayer games. PlayStation and Xbox jumped on the bandwagon in 2002 when they made the latest versions of their consoles internet-friendly.
The console online scheme is really just a response to the PC. They're looking at what's happening on the PC and saying, well, we can do that too.
If your game is entertaining and you put it online and it's entertaining online, then it's awesome. It's entertainment squared. If it's a bad game and you put it online, you're just spreading the misery around in a more efficient way.
You probably won't believe it when we tell you this, but not everyone plays games for fun. Remember how back in 1980 the U.S. Army ordered a special version of Battlezone from Atari to train the troops? The Marines even had their own version of Doom in 1994 to teach teamwork skills. 21st century Army recruits are tech-savvy and into video games big time. So it made sense for the military to tap into all that expertise.
These kids playing 13 hours, 20 hours a week video games, these thumbs are very agile. They know joysticks, they know triggers, and they said, let's just make our interfaces like that, and we're already over the first hurdle in getting them to kind of feel comfortable in these systems.
In 2002, the Army gave away a game called America's Army to the American public. Intended to test wannabe GIs, it turned into a smash hit. Then, they drafted Pandemic Studios onto a top-secret project. They wanted a game that would get recruits ready for combat without putting them at risk. Full Spectrum Warrior.
It's not a war game where you're running around and celebrating the fact that you're killing people. Your goal is to advance to a certain location or secure something to make sure your men are safe. It's a very different take on other military games.
The Army also had a plan to create a retail version of Full Spectrum Warrior. Of course, the G.I. Joe game needed a few tweaks to make it play for Joe Public.
The Army product was made for sergeants who were already fully trained, years of experience. We couldn't make that assumption with the average game player. So it's up to us to teach, as you play, all of the Army tactics that the soldiers have spent years learning.
It's a design challenge because we're moving away from the sim into the purely entertainment aspect of the game. So we're trying to find creative ways to keep it authentic, but also keep the pace going, keep you moving forward, get the action level up a bit.
Playing the commercial version might just be one of the best recruiting tools the Army could dream up.
Video games actively improve your hand-eye coordination and can train you directly in things that are relevant to the military. You're planting those seeds in your head when you're really young. Hey, you want to be a super soldier or you want to play games. The Army is the place to go.
It's pretty ironic that the same government that a few years ago hammered the video game industry for damaging young minds is now using the same tools to hook and train their raw recruits. The video game industry is still full of surprises, and now the biggest surprises are not just the games themselves, but who's playing, how many billions of dollars are involved, and who wants to be part of the action.